Blah, 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 blah. Why is it? Should I hear something? Is it coming through? Check, 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 check. See, it's not a delay now. Right. Check, check. See, it's like real time. What do you have delay on? Well, I mean, I thought that's what you had to delay. Maybe I just did something wrong last night. I don't know what I did. Because when I potted y'all up, remember, you were in here, we could still hear you talking. Yeah.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7260 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on a Tuesday evening after just a gorgeous day. I'm telling you, man, if Old Man Winter ever shows up, I'm going to be so depressed because I feel like I've gone to sleep and I've woken up in the great state of South Carolina, which is where you want to be, but it's now taken on the nature of like Florida or maybe the Bahamas. I feel like we've kind of become the Bahamas all of a sudden. I mean, this is just too cool.
Well, would you enjoy it less if you didn't experience Old Man Winter? See, this makes you savor days like this.
If we never, ever drop below 60 degrees again during the daytime, temperature-wise, that'll be fine with me.
Well, I've talked to a guy who lived in San Diego for several years. He told me it gets boring after a while.
Yeah.
He'd love to have
That's
some
the
variety
kind of boring I want to
of
be.
weather.
Where you could play golf 365 days a year if you wanted to.
You get
and
bored with it.
Cut the grass 360. Look, I'm willing to cut the grass 365 days a year to have this kind of weather. Though I know it's not going to last forever, but it's still going to be with us here for a little while. So I'm excited about that. Excited about the show tonight because we're going to open things up for you, Phil Kornbluth, Professor Tom Hayes, and Eric Guimaras behind the bulletproof glass tonight. Came back still away with a child fighting off one of those viruses, and hopefully he'll be back with us tomorrow night. 800-956-7266, the number. What about a 24-hour period it has been since we were last with you. Last night, Clemson gets the commitment from, according to one recruiting service, the number one quarterback in the 2017 class, Hunter Johnson from Indiana. They flip him from Tennessee on one visit. Of course, Brandon Streeter had been talking to him for a while, but he visited Clemson on Friday with his family, went to Tennessee on Saturday. He's been committed to Tennessee, gave no hint publicly that he was thinking of changing, and then he did so. 6'5", not your prototypical spread quarterback. He's your prototypical, from what I've read, pro-style quarterback. So that would be a little different for Clemson. But big pickup there. And then today, South Carolina gets Brian Edwards back in the fold from Conway. They do get Sedarius Hutcherson, the defensive end from Tennessee. He committed this afternoon. And the Gamecocks are very hopeful that tonight at 7:30, C.J. Freeman will stick with his commitment and not leave him after being committed for a long, long time.
Well, the only thing I would tell Clemson fans is do not compare any quarterback from now on that you get to Deshaun Watson. He is a once-in-a-generation player, in my opinion. Just looking at it, he looks like a savant as a quarterback.
I don't think Clemson's finished either recruiting quarterbacks for 2017, but, they still have Kelly Bryant, who's very, very good, and Tucker Israel, who's set the passing record in the state of Florida. What are they going to do with all of them? Back in a moment. Our phone number here on Sports Talk, 800-956-7266. So we are a week into the reign of Will Muschamp. Maybe you want to call it a week and a day, maybe a week and 2 days, depending on whether or not you believe his reign began on that Sunday or began on that Monday when he was officially introduced. What do you think of the first week? 800-956-7266. Do you see positive signs for the Gamecock program? Do you like the way he is handling things? Do you like the way he's getting after it in recruiting? 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. On Twitter @sportstalksc. The website is sportstalksc.com. Facebook, Sports Talk Radio Network. Basketball tonight. 2 games in the state. USC at home to Drexel. The Dragons, 1-6. Now, this is an NCAA team out of Philadelphia on a pretty regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
They lost their best player this summer, and so they've been kind of scrambling, trying to piece it back together. And Frank Martin feels like it's a team that's now starting to kind of find its way a little bit. They're 1-6. The Gamecocks are 8-0, ranked 25th in the coaches poll. Clemson at home to Presbyterian. Both teams are 5-2, and Clemson is coming off that tough loss to Alabama this past Sunday. Make Clemson 6-3 and Presbyterian 5-2. Both games are going to tip at 7 o'clock tonight. Of course, they're playing that game in Greenville at the Well. Presbyterian hoping to make a name for itself. They've got a pretty good club this year. Presbyterian annually plays a very difficult non-league schedule. They'll take on anybody, anywhere.
Cause barnstorming.
Yeah, they don't usually win those games, but it's good experience for them that they carry over to the Big South. They do start a 6'9", 260-pound center in Austin Venable, averaging 5 points and about 3 rebounds per game. But their leading player is Deshaun Murray, having a big year so far at nearly 22 points per game, a 6'5" sophomore. So that game getting underway at the Well at 7 o'clock. USC and Drexel, 7 o'clock at the Colonial Life Arena. I mentioned the recruiting stuff, which was big last night and today for USC and Clemson. A lot of other USC news today. First of all, the USC Board of Trustees today at a meeting approved the naming of the new indoor facility for Steve Spurrier and Jerry Spurrier. So that will go on that facility in some form or fashion. The surface, the playing surface in the indoor facility already has been named for former Gamecock lineman Ken Wheat. No, Wheat Street that runs through the university was not named for Ken Wheat. Maybe he was named for the street. I don't know. Maybe he had some connection to the wheat people for whom that was named.
Well, see,
or maybe they used to grow wheat in that part of Columbia.
Well, that's what I was saying. That maybe they should grow a little bit of wheat outside the practice facility so we'll know it's a wheat field.
Got you. Anyway, Chuck Allen on the Board of Trustees still wants to have the playing surface inside Williams-Brice named for Spurrier. So he's still pushing for that, which, can you overdo it?
Yes.
I mean, one or the other. I don't think you need to name the practice facility and the playing surface. I think the practice facility is a great idea. Name it for Spurrier and his wife, because she came out to practices, of course, all the time, and she was very close with the players. And the facility was built during his tenure with, I'm sure he had his input on it. So I can see that. I can see that.
And they also voted for the funding, I guess, for phase 1 of the
$50 million to build the football administration building.
Just let some of that drop out of your pocket. I'll pick up the
do you ever wonder where all this money comes from? Not just in college athletics, but anywhere. When I hear stuff like, $500 million to build a couple of bridges here, I mean, or $500 million to I don't know, repair potholes around. Where does the actual cash come from? I know it comes out of our pockets, but where's it all being stored? I'd like to have the key to that room.
Well, I guess it's just in cyberspace. It's just like the guy when the Superdome is maybe 35, 40 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But I guess one of the dignitaries at it said that he just said off the cuff, we won't see it when they dedicate it. We won't see it paid for in our lifetime, is what his statement
Which
was.
is probably true. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, what else is going on? That's some of the news from USC today. This story as well. Will Muschamp, this according to the Big Spur, Will Muschamp has hired special teams coordinator, inside linebackers coach Coleman Hutzler, who is coming from Boston College. And he was with Muschamp previously at Florida. And where he's been, they've done well in his area, special teams and linebackers. And, of course, Boston College, despite having a bad record this year, had a great defense.
Yes.
I mean, they could shut you down. They just couldn't score. They just couldn't beat you on the other side. But they could really play excellent defense. So that seems like a very good hire from that standpoint. Coleman Hutzler coming on as special teams coach and inside linebackers coach at USC, according to the Big Spur, citing, of course, sources. Speaking of Muschamp, he'll be with us on the program Friday night. So he's doing a bunch of radio shows this week as he's got some downtime in terms of not having to travel, with this being a dead period for recruiting. So he's got a chance to do some radio stuff. So he'll be with us on Friday night here on Sports Talk. The Stats FCS All-American team, this is the official FCS All-American team, was announced today. We have 3 players from our state on the first team. Fullback Tyler Renew from the Citadel. Maybe they should name the playing service at USC after him, the way he owned it when the Citadel came to town. He was up and down that field.
He rented it.
Defense, Javon Hargrave, defensive lineman from South Carolina State, and D. Delaney from the Citadel, defensive back. They were named to the first team. On the second team, Coastal Carolina running back D'Angelo Henderson, Charleston Southern offensive lineman Eric Austell. Also on the second team, long snapper Joseph Smith from Charleston Southern. Have you ever seen a long snapper included on an All-American team?
Well-deserved.
Mm-hmm.
It's a skill.
Why would you say well-deserved, Eric? You ever see him snap the ball?
That's the point.
Oh.
It's it's not too many people in this world could watch the world being upside down.
Yeah, I've never seen a long snapper included on an All-American team, but congratulations, man. If they're going to recognize you, why not? The first team All-American long snapper is Joshua Appel from Indiana State. On the third team, clearly what?
This new system is wacko. I didn't know you heard me.
I hear everything. So turn yourself off. Thank you. Third team, defensive line, Mitchell Jeter from the Citadel, linebacker Aaron Brown from Charleston Southern, linebacker Corey Magwood from Furman, and kick returner Devin Brown from Coastal Carolina. So there you go. Congratulations to those folks. Hey, I found something interesting to talk about. High School Sports Report, they did a little story, a list of high school football standings in South Carolina for the last 15 years, from 2001 through 2015. Ranking the schools 1 through, how many schools are ranked here? 1 through 201 in the high school league in terms of wins. Who do you think has the most wins over the last 15 years in the state? And who do you think has the fewest in the high school league over the last 15 years? Let that sink in. Let that sink in.
Okay.
And if you have a question about your own favorite high school, how they did over the last 15 years, ask us, and I'll tell you. We've also got closed or inactive schools and SCISA standings as well. High School Sports Report did a great job putting this together. I found it very interesting. And we'll answer those questions and more. Coming up, 800-956-7266 Sports Talk.
Gary Gilmore was about to enter the center of the mail.
All right, we're back. 800-956-7266. What's on your mind tonight? Let's go to Tiger Bryan. Tiger Bryan, little TB action from up in Lancaster. Hello, Tiger Bryan.
Hey, man, I want to wish y'all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
You too,
Y'all
sir.
do a
Hope you're
great
feeling
job.
well. Are you feeling well?
No, I got to have 2 more stints in a week from today, matter of fact, man.
Man. Got to get you healthy, man. You got to get down to Miami for the national playoffs.
Man, I wish I could, bud, but you know how your old heart, when you take her, you better take care of it and eat right.
That's true.
All right. I want to tell you what, old Dabo, he's bringing in them 5-star recruits, but I don't see him letting up on this recruiting. With us doing good as we are. It's it's going to be South Carolina's going to have the damn job. They're going to have a job to figure out how to beat Clemson, you know what I mean? Next 5 or 6 years, you know what I mean? So
well, it got me thinking last night. I mean, that was an impressive day for Clemson yesterday in terms of the talent they acquired for both their defense and their offense. And it got me thinking 2 things. Number one, how do they do it? And number two, how do they do it? And number two, really, how big is the spread now between South Carolina and Clemson in talent, and how much is it going to grow until Muschamp and his staff are in a position to be able to cut into it? Because let's face it, the talent gap between the two right now is wide and widening.
What was the score of the last game?
Clemson won. Well, I mean, what's your point?
37-32.
It wasn't that close.
No, you talk as if the chasm is deep. It's not.
I think it is, Pro. Look at the difference. How many players on South Carolina's starting 22 this year could have started for Clemson?
We don't know. They're not on Clemson's team. They haven't been evaluated by Clemson's coaches.
I think if you look at them enough, as we did, you would see that very few Gamecocks of 2015 could have started, much less play. I should say play, much less started for Clemson's team this year.
Here's the other question to ask.
There's not a single offensive lineman that would play ahead of any current Clemson offensive lineman. The only skill position player you could think about would be Pharaoh Cooper.
Here's the only question I ask you.
And on defense, forget it.
Take Clemson's defense and put them in the system Carolina was in, standing back there. How good would they have played?
But that's nonsensical. They don't play that way.
But that's my point. My point is, everybody says the defense played terrible. I said the governors were on and they weren't allowed to play aggressive. When you have people standing back there.
There's a reason why the coaches coached in the way they did and played them the way they did.
Because your offense couldn't score.
No, maybe the defensive coaches knew that they didn't have the talent to man up and play man-to-man coverage, or the talent to blitz and leave that secondary alone.
We don't know that because they didn't do it.
I mean, they recruited these guys. They coached, and there had to be a reason.
John Hope didn't recruit them.
They played the way they did. Back in a moment. And we're back at Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at sportstalksc. Basketball tonight, USC Drexel at the Colonial Life Arena. The Gamecocks trying to go 9-0, which would surpass their best start most recently, which was 8-0, 2004, 2005, I think it was. I'd have to go back and check and see if they go to 9-0, what other season where they've got off to that kind of a good start.
Well, the interesting thing about it is I think if we look at back over the years when South Carolina could not score in the first few years of Frank Martin's tenure, those little guards they've had to play against a bunch of teams early, they would have lost those basketball games because of the inability to score. I think one of the subtle changes when you decide that when we really get into the basketball season, Corn, you probably noticed it as well, with the new shot clock rule, they have waived now the 5-second closely guarded rule. So I think that's really opened the door more for even little guards because all they do is when the shot clock gets around 15 or 10, they start to dribble around till they find the matchup they want. So that's one of the subtle changes you see in college basketball now where if you don't have a dominant front court, you're going to see many guards try to take over the game now, especially without that closely guarded rule.
Gamecocks trying to go 9-0 for the first time since 1970, 71. Yeah. So we're talking, let's see, 30, that's 45. That's 45 years if you go to 1970, because I guess it was in the 1970 part of the schedule that they hit 9-0. Maybe not. Maybe back then they weren't playing so many games early. So 1970-71, that was the year that they were unbeaten in ACC play and went to the ACC tournament and got beaten in the semifinals, right? 70-71, that was that
by
year.
NC State.
And then the next year they won the ACC championship on the magical jump ball and lay-in by Tom Owens. I think I got my years right on that. Yeah, 70-71. Because 69-70 was the first year when things really started to get exciting under McGuire with John Roach and that group. And then Kevin Joyce came in, and then they added other pieces over the next couple of years and really built a great program for about 4 or 5 years. People think South Carolina had this great long run of basketball success. It really wasn't a long run. Things started to happen about 66, 67, and things ended in 75 when McGuire left. So it was about a 10-year window there when they were really exciting.
And let's face it,
back up a second. When they left the ACC, they were still good for a year or two. Really, the exciting part of the window was from about 66 to 73. And then 74, 75, things started to dry up.
That was more than sport then because it was high drama.
Gosh, I'm telling you, as a kid in South Carolina growing up then, that was some of the most unbelievable moments that you could ever have. Even though I know football was still the sport. I think for a while there, basketball with McGuire and the things that were happening with that program kind of nudged football aside. Because you had McGuire, the ultimate showman, and you had these guys from New York who were brash and cocky and setting examples. John Roach became the poster boy for every basketball player in the Southeast, especially in South Carolina and around the country, wearing the sweatbands and crossing himself at the line when he would shoot free throws. Everybody started doing that, even the Jewish basketball stars. Yes, there were such things back then, crossing themselves at the line. It's a different kind of crossing. They had little intersections going on. But anyway, you catch my drift.
Yes, I do.
That was a 5-point cross versus the 4. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. That was a trend-setting basketball team. And, gosh, they had some unbelievable games. And to me, today it wouldn't be accepted. Because society has changed so much. But the things they did back then in the ACC, not just with South Carolina, even though they were pretty much hated by everybody. I remember the game when South Carolina played at Wake Forest. I remember Bob Fulton describing it perfectly in the pregame.
The commode.
The students brought a toilet out on the floor in the pregame. They had a doll of John Roach nailed to a cross, and they were stuffing it in the toilet. And that was acceptable back then. To some degree. I don't know if any administrators came out and took it away, but it happened because Bob Fulton described it.
There wasn't no ESPN. They would have been showing it on a reel, and those kids would have been just railed out of town.
But the hot pennies, the fans used to heat pennies and throw it on the backs of the players sitting on the bench. And it was just ugly.
And then, of course, the ultimate is to have, was it Reebok that punched Lefty Driesell?
Yeah.
Well, you have a player punch a coach now, he would be vilified.
Well, and then Lefty threatened, Lefty said, because South Carolina had to go back up to Maryland to play later in the season, and he made the comment, I can't guarantee their safety. And this kind of stuff.
That wouldn't fly today. No,
and they had the National Guard. I believe they had the National Guard there to escort the Gamecocks in and out of Cole Fieldhouse. And then, of course, McGuire made a terrible coaching decision during that game. Maryland sat back. This is before the shot clock. And Maryland sat back in the zone and dared South Carolina to play. And instead of, holding the ball, McGuire went on and played, and they got beat. They lost that game up at – remember Maryland had the really good player. Was it Jim O'Brien with the red afro? I think it was Jim O'Brien. Something O'Brien.
Jim O'Brien.
Was it Jim O'Brien? Yeah, those were some remarkable days. And we bring this up because if South Carolina wins tonight to go to 9-0, they match their best start since 1970. So those were some good basketball times in the state. All right, back to the phones we go. Let's go to Vern in Bishopville. Next up here on Sports Talk. Hello, Vern.
Oh, yeah. How you doing, Mr. Phil and Mr. Pro?
We're good, sir.
Good day.
Yeah, I heard you. Yes, I heard you were discussing about Will Muschamp and stuff like that. He gonna need a little bit of time and stuff. It's Carolina having a down problem with recruiting. He gonna need a little bit of time, but I think they're gonna do pretty well.
Well, they had a good day today getting Brian Edwards back in the fold. That's big. So Darius Hutcherson is a two-way kind of player. He can play defensive end. He can play tight end. He looks good on film and looks good, in his picture. Exactly how good of a player he is, I don't know. He had not many high-level offers, but some good ones. South Carolina's probably his best solid offer.
But he's going to convert it into offensive tackle, so that's going to take about 2 years to beef him up.
I don't know. He says tight end, not tackle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he says tight end. Or he could end up staying at defensive end.
Yeah, I don't hear too much about the tight end situation now. They might need to recruit there some, try to help out there too.
Well, they got a couple of young tight ends in the program.
Markway.
Markway played this year, and another one was redshirted.
Yeah.
Well, see, I would tell you this: the guy who looks like a movement tight end. What I mean by that is a guy who used as a receiver, but not much as a blocker. Is the guy they have it wide out, Hayden Hurst.
Yeah. Connor,
he don't want to play tight end, though, Pro. He don't want to play tight end.
Well, I'm talking about a move tight end. If you look at the Panthers tight end situation, they don't ask their tight end to block that much.
Connor Redmond is also in the program as a tight end, and Casey Crosby might be a little undersized at tight end. He's more of an H-back, fullback kind of guy. But, Casey Crosby is a guy with skills, and you got to find a way to use him. I mean, he's too talented a player not to sit down, not to find a place.
Well, wasn't he
all-state
at linebacker as well?
Yeah, played linebacker.
Yeah, so that may be his spot right there.
Hey, thanks for your phone call. Good hearing from you. We have time for more calls. 800-956-7266 is the phone number here on Sports Talk. Just saw, another reason to hate ESPN. First of all, one reason to hate them is the fact that they've got so many bowl games under their control now that we've got 5 and 7 teams playing in bowl games this year. That's an embarrassment. And now, they want to be TMZ between 6 and 7 o'clock promoting movies. They just had Farrell and Wahlberg in studios. Back in a moment. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Hey, Farm Bureau Insurance. With new auto insurance rates from Farm Bureau, you could be saving a whole lot of money, even if you received a quote before. Rates are now more competitive than ever. Get a free quote today from your local Farm Bureau insurance agents. 800-956-7266. Let's continue with the calls. We'll hear from Wayne Gallman, Clemson running back, coming up in a little bit. We go to where? Ford in Charleston. Hello, Ford.
Hey,
how are you? Good, man.
Hey, how y'all guys doing?
Good.
Good. I got a question about the high school records.
Yeah.
What about Crestwood?
Oh, you want to know what Crestwood did? Oh, I never did answer the question, did I?
Nope.
You want to take a guess as to the winningest high school team, rather?
Team?
Yeah.
Oh,
in the 15
Myrtle
years.
Beach. No, 15? Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll save you the trouble.
Save me trouble.
It's Burns. Burns with a
right.
record of 192-25 and 8 championships over the 15 years. Dillon at second at 183-24 and 6 championships. Timberland third, 158-35, 2 championships. Fourth is South Point.
I was about to ask.
Now, they haven't been around for 15 years. 113-26 and 4 titles. And Lamar, 162-39 and 4 titles. Then it's Myrtle Beach, 153-45. Central, 147-45. Bamberg Earhart, 141-45. Dorman at 148-49. And Northwestern, 153-51. Now, to answer your question about Crestwood, Crestwood comes in 79th with a record of 91-81.
Okay. What about
last
Carolina?
15 years. Carolina Academy?
Yeah.
You mean the school up in Greenville, that Carolina Academy?
Actually in Lake City.
Oh, the Skeeza school.
Yeah.
Let's see. They are 24th in Skeeza at 81-79.
Thank you very much.
You got it, sir. Thank you very much. The team with the fewest wins over the 15-year period. Well, there's 2 of them. There's 2. Well, I shouldn't say fewest wins. This would be because there is a team with fewer wins that's not ranked last, but they've played fewer games. So last is Eau Claire with 20 wins over the last 15 years and 134 losses. That's a lot of losing. 200th is Lincoln at 20 wins and 130 losses. 199th is Branchville with only 14 wins but only 69 losses. Dixie's 198th, 27 wins, 130 defeats. And I know you want to know what Latta did over the 15 years. We just recently blossomed into a football power, okay? We've been a baseball, softball, basketball juggernaut, just recently blossoming into a football power. 177th with 48 wins and 110 losses. That's a lot of losing, too.
I bet you remember each win.
Well, we won a bunch this year. Made it to the state semis, so chew on that, fat boy. I'm not talking to you, Eric. Let's go to Chuck in Somerville. Hello, Chuck. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Got to catch you guys tonight. I heard you guys talking about the basketball team back when Frank McGuire was here. And I'm not a huge basketball fan, but obviously with what's going on in Columbia, it's hard to not root for those guys. I'm going to try and go up and catch a game this year. But I have some family that is actually from New York, and an uncle of mine was down, and I thought this was interesting. We started talking about sports, and he started talking about the Carolina basketball team, and he said at that time period, the South Carolina Gamecocks were basically the adopted home team of New York City.
Yeah, I would say so because they had such strong ties to the city via Frank McGuire, and almost the entire lineup was made of New York City grown players.
Yeah, it definitely kind of put a different perspective on that period, though, to really think about how, nationally that got. Because it's easy to look back and say, yeah, we were big, but it was South Carolina. And to have that, okay, yeah, but there was other states where they were actually, paying attention to South Carolina basketball. And it just kind of put a different perspective on it for me.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, South Carolina for a short while was number 1 in the country before losing a game to, I think it was Tennessee.
Yeah, I think it was.
And
Yeah.
John Roach was featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated back when it really meant something, back when Sports Illustrated was the sports outlet, was the publication. You show up on the cover of Sports Illustrated, that was special. And that really gave the basketball program in South Carolina a great deal of notoriety. Yeah, that was a very special time for sports fans in South Carolina because they hadn't paid much attention to basketball. And all of a sudden, all around the state, hoops were going up. The Coliseum was built in Columbia. Little John was built at Clemson. And basketball became a big deal. All right, thanks for the call. Back in a moment. All right, let's get to recruiting. We got a ton. As we mentioned at the outset, defensive end, Darius Hutcherson, 6'6", 250, Huntington, Tennessee, this afternoon, committed to USC. He was contacted by Will Muschamp last Friday, and USC had been recruiting him prior to that, Sean Elliott, and Muschamp reaffirmed the offer on the table, and today he contacted Muschamp and said, I'm coming. Now, he is going to take other officials in January. He is not an early enrollee. Scheduled for USC January 16th and Memphis the following weekend. Athletic enough to play tight end as well as defensive end. Muschamp told him that he liked what he saw of him on film. Also today, Brian Edwards from Conway recommitted to USC. He will enroll in January. He picked the Gamecocks over Clemson. Coach Chuck Jordan said Monday that Edwards was all torn up, and then when he walked in the office today, the coach said, I could tell he was a lot better. He said he wanted to be a Gamecock. The coach said, I drilled him a little bit on it, and he said, Coach, it's just a fit for me. I like where I fit at South Carolina. I like where the program is going, and I'm comfortable with that, and that's how I feel. Coach Jordan said they called Muschamp and they called Sweeney and told them, and that was that. Edwards, of course, a finalist for Mr. Football, Shrine Bowl selection, U.S. Army All-American selection, coming off a knee injury suffered in late October. And tonight at 7:30, the Gamecocks are waiting to hear the final word from C.J. Freeman, their running back commitment from Greensboro. Optimistic that they will retain his services and his commitment. He's an early enrollee. Wisconsin, Louisville, Georgia Southern have made a strong push for him as well. But he had his official USC over the weekend. Things went well. No reason not to think he won't stick with the Gamecocks. Now, Clemson, of course, they got Dexter Lawrence yesterday during the day. Last night, 2017 quarterback Hunter Johnson, 6'3", 197, Brownsburg, Indiana, committed to Clemson, backing off a commitment to Tennessee. He and his family, they were at Clemson on Friday, and he said he just got that gut feeling. He just felt it at Clemson. His parents did too. It just felt right to him. Brandon Streeter has been recruiting him for some time. This season, he passed for 2,545 yards and 31 touchdowns. Receiver Samuel Denmark of Hanahan, he's at the Shrine Bowl. When he gets home this weekend, he said he'll quickly make a decision. He's committed to Virginia Tech, but he's looking hard at USC after visiting this past weekend. And so he's very interested now in South Carolina. And he said he's not quite sure yet. He'll need some more time when he gets home to talk to his family and work things out in his mind. Will Muschamp met with him last week. He also has met with Justin Fuente. At Grayson High School, Loganville, Georgia, the coach there, Mickey Kahn, tells us that Clemson will continue to recruit his quarterback in 2017, Chase Bryce, because the Tigers, he's told, plan to take 2 quarterbacks in the 2017 class. We'll tell you more about that, and we'll have more recruiting coming up after the break.
From Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornbluth, Professor Tom Hayes, and Eric Guimaras here at your disposal on this Tuesday night. Let's get back to wrap up the recruiting information. I was talking about Coach Mickey Kahn, Grayson High School, Loganville, Georgia. Dabo Sweeney's old roommate on the road at Alabama. Anyway, he said that Clemson's still interested in his outstanding quarterback, 2017 Chase Bryce. He said he's told they're going to take 2. Bryce passed for 2,436 yards, 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions this season. Now, he has another player in the 2016 class, defensive end Michael McDaniel, who USC offered with the previous staff. Now, Coach Kahn said McDaniel still wants to go to USC, was close to committing or may have committed to the old staff, but they have not heard from the Gamecocks, the new staff, at least as far as he knows. He's not sure what the plans are for McDaniel related to them, the Gamecocks. Several other schools, including Kentucky and Mississippi State, were in to check on him. He had 60 tackles, 5.5 sacks this season. Offensive lineman Isaiah Wilson of Brooklyn tweeted out an updated top 10 today. Clemson, Michigan, Michigan State, LSU, North Carolina, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, and Florida in no order. Ole Miss commitment linebacker Dante Evans of Orangeburg in Lawrenceville, Georgia, said he is sticking with his commitment to the Rebels and will start school there January 15th. He was contacted by new USC assistant Bobby Bentley last week, but said it's too late in the process for him to reconsider his plans, and he's happy with his decision to go to Ole Miss. USC target defensive back Daniel Thomas of Montgomery, Alabama, offered by Maryland yesterday. USC commitment offensive line Lloyd Cushenberry took an official visit to Minnesota over the weekend. And tomorrow, South Carolina's hopeful of landing junior college defensive back Jamarcus King. Tomorrow is the first day for junior college mid-year transfers to sign. And so King plans to sign tomorrow. He's not saying with whom. He took his official visit with South Carolina this past weekend, had a really good time. He's had South Carolina and Tennessee and Auburn at the top of his list. Make that USC, Auburn, and Arkansas at the top of his list. And we'll see what he does tomorrow. Of course, South Carolina knew him from their days at Auburn. Robinson, South Carolina's new assistant coach, recruited him when he was at Auburn. So we'll see what happens. Jamarcus King, defensive back out of Coffeyville. Announcement from him tomorrow. And, of course, tonight, 7:30, we will keep an eye on C.J. Freeman and what he decides to do. And basketball pro, you got any scores?
Last score has 5-0 Clemson, 6-5 South Carolina.
Clemson 7-6 and Drexel 7-6. Updated scores.
Thank you. You had them. Why did you ask?